right, guys, here we go. It is the main event of the weekend. And by a lot of terms, the main event of the horse racing season. The Breeders' Cup Classic is here. This is the Breeders' Cup Classic preview video, race number 9. Yeah, it is not the last race. It is race number 9. It is a little bit weird out there at Del Mar on Saturday. Field of 10, $7 million on the line. Going a mile and a quarter. We have the top 3 finishers from last year. We have the top 3-year-old horses of this year. We've got some others as well to add intrigue. Let's go through them one by one. I'll put the Breeders' Cup entry page up on the screen, kind of a little bit more of a visually pleasing entries here. And we'll start with Fierceness. And sure, we'll start with Fierceness, the crazy horse, right? The schizophrenic horse, I've heard been called, the Jekyll and Hyde, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, listen, this horse, we just never know what he's going to do. I always try to tell people, or I have been trying to tell people now, is like, I don't think he's trip dependent. I don't think it matters where he draws. I don't think anything matters. I think all that matters is what's he want to do, because he just kind of does whatever he wants. I don't think his connections, well, at least I know his connections did not want the rail, because what happened last time when he drew the rail at Del Mar? Well, he broke. And then there was a temporary rail there, and he tried to jump over it, and he got himself in all kinds of trouble. Johnny V did a good job just to stay aboard him and keep him safe. He had all kinds of dirt in his face. He split horses, and he ended up winning for fun under a hand ride. These are all things that they would kind of thought, Fierceness, there's no way he could do that kind of stuff. He would be so bothered, and he would throw him off his game. It didn't. So here he is here. He got the rail again. It's not a good draw for him, but you know, people have texted me saying, oh, if there was one horse that couldn't draw the rail, it was him. Only in horse racing could we have seen him draw the rail in a grade 1 race at Del Mar, win under a hand ride despite all kinds of antics, and think he can't do it, right? I mean, and I understand he's not going to be able to do that kind of stuff in the Breeders' Cup against this type of field and win. Or will he? Because really, he looked as good as ever when he did all that stuff in the Pacific Classic. So I'm not really worried about it. All I worry about with him is the Fierceness that runs unbelievably well going to show up, or is the Fierceness that runs poorly going to show up? You never know. I have no idea. Put him on tickets. Don't put him in a reliable spot, you know, where you have to rely on him to win. If you're relying on just him, that's playing Russian roulette, quite literally. But if you kind of play him as a defensive horse, hey, I got to use him because of his best race, you know, I think his best race certainly can win here. But who knows if he'll do it or not. All right, let's go to the number 2 Baeza here. 15-1 on the morning line for Baeza, a horse that is seemingly getting better. I think the biggest problem is we've seen him get beat by Sovereignty, 3 times. Journalism, same thing. Finished behind him 3 times. Both those horses are in the race, so you gotta bank on improvement, right? You gotta hope he's improved off of those races, and I think he has. I thought the Pennsylvania Derby was his best race yet. I just don't know that he is prepared to win a race of this caliber. Now, can he outrun some of the other horses in this race? Maybe get second or third at a big price, make the exacta or try, or even super pay. Yeah, I think he can do that. I kind of think that's his ceiling, though, overall. I'm not quite sure he's a horse that can actually improve to the level that he has to improve to win. Because you got to think about it. Not only does he have to improve to beat Journalism, he also has to improve to beat Sovereignty. We're not 100% sure. A lot of people don't think, Sovereignty is as good as the other horses, the older horses that finished this last year. So, in a lot of people's minds, he's got to improve quite a bit, and in my mind as well. So I think he's an underneath candidate. I don't know as far as winning. The 3 horses, Nevada Beach, 20-1 on the morning line here for Nevada Beach. And look, I think, and I've said on some other shows, if this was like the 2023 version of the Breeders' Cup Classic, or kind of maybe the Breeders' Cup Classic that Fort Larned won, or the Breeders' Cup Classic, let's say Mucho Macho Man won. No disrespect to those horses, but it was an easier spot. And I think a horse like Nevada Beach would look pretty darn good in that spot. He doesn't look great to me in this spot because of just how tough it is. I kind of like him as a horse. I kind of think he is one to keep an eye on. I think he can outrun his odds at 20-1. I just can't get him on tickets logically. I just don't see it. Because as much as we say Baeza is going to have to improve, Nevada Beach is going to prove that much more to get to these the horses in his own crop that have been getting beat by Sovereignty. He still looks a step below them. So I don't think it's impossible. I don't know that it's probable that he improves enough to win it. I think this is a good horse. A different year, he'd look pretty good in here. This year, he just looks up against it. All right, the controversial horse, the number 4, Contrary Thinking, and I mean, he is the rabbit for Sierra Leone. They've implored, this the last 2 races. It's funny. The first race, he really didn't do his job. The pace really wasn't all that hot, and Sierra Leone was able to win. And then 2 races back, last time out, he did his job. The pace was hot. Sierra Leone couldn't win. And so I don't know. I don't think he plays any impact in the race whatsoever, to be quite honest with you. I do think he could speed up the pace. That does help Sierra Leone. But at the end of the day, he isn't, to me, like, he really hasn't affected the outcome of either race. And I know you're going to cite the Mike Ripoli thing where it's all the rabbit's fault, what happened in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I don't know. I mean, yeah, he came in, but so did other horses too. And maybe he started the chain reaction, but I've seen that happen out of the gate before, and they just kind of all come together and they come out of it and it's fine. So I don't really subscribe to that. I don't know. I just don't think he's going to have that much of an impact in the race. I think it's being a little bit overblown. I mean, as far as his chances to win, sometimes you do see the rabbit sneak off. I don't think that's going to happen here. I just kind of think he's a non-factor in the race. This horse is a factor. The number 5, Forever Young, 6-1 on the morning line for Forever Young. And the big question mark for me is, what are we going to get out of him? He's tough. And it was the same last year as well. After he ran in the Kentucky Derby, he was off for a long time. He had 1 prep race. It really didn't look like a serious race. And then he came here, and I thought he ran well to finish 3rd. I bet him that day. And, I think he was probably a little too close to that hot pace, and he still finished with a little bit of run. And I think being inside of all the horses, he didn't really like that much, because once he got outside, he started to run a little bit harder. So, but again, you come into this, and he won the Saudi Cup, and then he didn't do much running at all in Dubai. Then he's off forever, and then he has the 1 prep, and now he's here. I just don't know what to make of him this year. He also is 0-2 here in the United States. He really didn't have that much of an excuse in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year. He did have an excuse, a big excuse in the Kentucky Derby. Wouldn't be shocked at all if he wins. I'm not going to play him to win this year. But again, I can't really say last year I was like disappointed in him. I thought he ran pretty well. He just wasn't good enough. The problem is, like, those 2 horses that he wasn't good enough to beat last year, they're still here, plus 3-year-olds that I really like as well. So I don't know. I couldn't get there with him on top. The number 6 is Sovereignty. It's hilarious. If you go watch the Breeders' Cup Draw show, Jared asked me before the race, before the draw, what post do you want for Sovereignty? And I said, number 6. And he draws number 6. So that's pretty crazy. Listen, if you followed me the last couple of months, you probably know I'm going to pick this horse to win. So I'll just say I'm going to pick number 6, Sovereignty, to win. I think the price, morning line odd of 6-5, it's shorter than I thought his morning line odds would be. In reality, that's probably, he's going to fall 6-5, 7-5, somewhere around there, maybe 8-5. So I was kind of prepared for it, honestly, as far as that price goes. I just think he's, I really just think he's just kind of one of those horses that doesn't come around all that often. I just thought ever since the Belmont, if you look at the Belmont, the Jim Dandy, the Travers, I just think they're great efforts. I get that the Travers was very weak, and I'm not really giving him a lot of credit for the horses that he beat in that race. I thought the Jim Dandy, Baeza ran great, and Sovereignty was kind of in first gear and was able to beat him. I look back at that Belmont, and I just look at Journalism, who I thought ran his best race of his career. Sovereignty just passes him like standing still. And I just like, man, this horse has really turned into a monster. And I think the biggest thing, this was a horse that was a closer, maybe not dead last, but towards the back every time. And now he's stalking the pace. And I just think that is so dangerous for him. If they go too fast, he can drop back a little bit further. But if they're going, 48 for the half, he's not going to be far behind. That makes him so dangerous so that he can still finish with that kind of run, sitting closer to the pace. So I love him. I just, ever since that Belmont day, I'd kind of told myself, this is kind of just a different horse than what you usually get to see. So here's the deal. He could be an elite horse. He could be really, really good, and he could run 3rd here. This is a very tough race. I don't think the 3-year-olds are good enough to turn the tables on him. So I think we're good there. But look, the top 3 finishers of the Breeders' Cup Classic from last year are back this year. Fierceness, Sierra Leone, Forever Young. Those are, horses he's going to have to go get. So, and he's going to have to beat, and that's a new bunch. And there is question marks. I don't know. And maybe they are better. Maybe, they shouldn't be the price they are. And maybe they are better. I just think with my eyes, I like Sovereignty over those. Number 7 is Sierra Leone, the winner of last year's Breeders' Cup Classic. Is 8-1 on the morning line. I don't know that if you'll get that, but if you're going to email me, you're going to comment on this video, you're going to come up and talk to me about it, and you say, hey, I'm betting Sierra Leone at 8-1. I can't say that, I mean, I would say do it because there is no argument for me on that. He's a great price. He has only one victory, since winning the Classic. It's kind of who he is at this point, right? I mean, we kind of saw it. He hadn't won a race since April, and then he came in and won the Breeders' Cup Classic last year. It's just what he does. Like, he's not going to rattle off a lot of wins with that running style, but if the pace is hot enough and the horses come back to him, he will get you. If you are slowing down in the lane, you're screwed. He's going to catch you. And even if you're not just really slowing down hard, just a little bit, he's going to get you. So he's dangerous. He's going to run his race. If you want to bet him at that price, go for it. I have no argument against it. I think he's in here with a big shot. Here's a horse that's beaten Sierra Leone when they've matched up, and they've matched up a couple of times, and they've matched up at this distance once in the Belmont Stakes last year. That's number 8, Mindframe. I have gotten to where I really like Mindframe with each passing day coming into this. Here's the problem. He hasn't finished a race with a jockey aboard him since June. Now, that was a win, and it was a win over Sierra Leone, and it was his 3rd straight victory of the year, and he was one of the top, if not the top male horses, older horses in the country. He went to run in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Him and Sierra Leone going to match up again up at Saratoga. Irad gets knocked off past the wire the first time. They hadn't even got to the wire the first time, and the horse is running loose. That's why he's 10-1, folks. You got to understand, is he going to be his absolute best in this race? And it is a legitimate question. Here's what I will say. If he would have won the Jockey Club Gold Cup, he'd be the 2nd choice in the race, right? So, and that would have been his 3rd win over Sierra Leone. I kind of love him in this spot, honestly. The more I think about it, he grows on me with each passing day. I'm going to have him on tickets. 10-1 makes too much sense. I think we'll get something close to that. So another horse, if you're telling me you're crazy for liking Sovereignty at 6-5, I want Mindframe. Sure, it makes total sense to me. You're not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, that totally makes sense. If you want to play a longer priced horse here, Mindframe, Sierra Leone, I get it. Those prices are there. They're fair. They make sense. All right, number 9, Journalism, the horse I've liked since day one. Really, I'm kind of rooting for him. Gets Jose Ortiz aboard here, so a jockey change. I do think it'll help. I don't know to what degree. I don't know if it'll help enough. To me, it's just really hard to turn the tables on Journalism when you've been beaten that soundly. I don't know that a jockey's going to make turn the tables on Sovereignty, I should say, when you've been beaten that soundly. I just don't know that a jockey's going to make that much of a difference. It might, though. And also, I'd like to see him ride him once before the biggest race of his life, So maybe a little too late. I don't know. I'm just skeptical a little bit on it. But I tell you this, he's a good horse. He's super consistent. I think he can. I don't know if he can win. I think he can hit the board. That's kind of the way I look at it with him. I'll be rooting for him. I think he deserves it, but I don't know if he's good enough. And that's just the bottom line. And it's hard to say that he is when you've seen him match up with Journalism. And I just think back to that Belmont. I bet Journalism that day. I thought he was going to win. I thought he ran. I thought everything was perfect. I thought the trip was perfect. I thought he ran perfect. He turned the corner looking great. And he just wasn't a match for Journalism. And so it's hard for me. He wasn't a match for Sovereignty, I should say. It's just hard for me to get back. I just couldn't do it, so not for me in the spot. And then finally, the number 10 is Antiquarian, and Antiquarian is a horse that I have loved all year, and he's done nothing but really break my heart. 2 races, where I had him bet. And both races, he blew the turn on one, and he just kind of blew the turn on the second one as well, lost momentum on the turns and got beat. And then he won the Jockey Club Gold Cup in a race where I didn't have him. So he's a good horse. He really is a talented horse. He is improving. I look at him and say, boy, a lot of years I'd be all over you, but I just don't think he's as good as these horses. So, and sometimes like with him, and even Nevada Beach, a Baeza, a horse like that, even journalism, you go, gosh, I feel like I'm disrespecting him, but that's just the kind of field it is. It's one of the best fields we've seen in the Breeders' Cup Classic. You can't play them all. If you want to play Antiquarian at 15-1, I can't talk you off of him. I just don't think he's good enough. And so that's where I was at with him. All right. For me, it really came, it came down to this. I'm not going to pick Fierceness to win. I'm also not going to let Fierceness beat me on pick fours and pick fives, right? That's just how I've handled him. That's how I'm going to handle him. I just can't do anything but that, right? I couldn't get there with Baeza. I couldn't get there with Nevada Beach. Contrary thinking, no. Forever Young, I took that road last year. If he wins, I'm not going to be shocked. I don't want to do it again. I'll skip Sovereignty because that's going to be my top pick. Sierra Leone, I thought about for a long time. I'm not 100% confident we're going to see a blazing pace like last year. And even if we do, I don't know that he can catch Sovereignty because I think Sovereignty will sit far enough off of it where the pace might help him a little bit as well. I thought about Mindframe. That was the only one I really thought about for a long time because he just is a horse. His losses, we look at the Belmont, you look at the Haskell, he did it to himself. He drifted in the stretch. If he runs straight, I think he wins those races. And then, the jockey gets knocked off. That's whatever. But at the end of the day, I just kept going back. I think Sovereignty is the horse. I think he can do, what American Pharaoh did and win this race as a 3-year-old, what Arrogant did and win this race as a 3-year-old. I don't know if he's as good as either one of them yet. I think you have to win this race to kind of prove it. I also look at a 3-year-old like Sierra Leone, won this last year. I think Sovereignty at this point in his career as a 3-year-old was a much better horse than Sierra Leone was at that point in a 3-year-old when he won this race last year. So I look at Bayern. I think Sovereignty is a lot better horse than Bayern. He was able to win a Breeders' Cup Classic. 3-year-olds can win the Classic. It's not uncommon to see that. The problem with this 3-year-old is he's facing such a tough field, and that's the one pause that you have. But at the end of the day, I have been over the moon since the Belmont on this horse. I just saw something that day that was really, really special, really, really special. And he's done nothing but show me that again and again. He's the horse for me. So give me number 6, Sovereignty, to win this year's version of the Breeders' Cup Classic. All right, guys, that'll do it for this preview. Hit that like button if you like it. Hit subscribe if you really like it. Want to get alerted anytime we do previews like this. And most importantly, good luck if you're betting the Breeders' Cup on Saturday.